asked him, Stevie, when was your first same-sex experience? I mean, and he just looked at me and said, it was with Dennis Hastert. And I was stunned. I said, why didn't you ever tell anybody, Stevie? I mean, he was your teacher. Why didn't you ever tell anybody? And he just looked at me and said, who is ever going to believe me? In this town, who is ever going to believe me?
Jolene Burge alleging her brother was sexually abused in high school by Dennis Hastert, dating back to Denny's time as a teacher and wrestling coach well before his career in politics. Hastert was indicted last week for evading bank regulations to withdraw hundreds of thousands of dollars and lying to the FBI about the reason for those withdrawals. According to the federal indictment, the money was being used as hush money to cover up sexual misconduct with a person the feds identify as individual A. Joining us now from Newsmax Washington, our chief political columnist and White House correspondent, John Gizzi. John, does this case continue to captivate attention there in the nation's capital?
It really doesn't. There's a lot of other things, such as the King v. Burwell case on Obamacare and the specter of a Greek default on their loans, that are certainly occupying discussion at the White House. I can say that the case of former House Speaker Dennis Hastert is not among the top 10 of topics being discussed here in Washington, D.C.
Well, across the heartland and in some key congressional districts, people are looking back. And you'll recall back in 2006, in those midterm elections, Denny came under criticism for what was thought the mishandling of sexual misconduct charges involving Congressman Mark Foley and his communications with House pages. Yep, you wrote about it. And in retrospect, do you think the reluctance for Hastert to initially pursue those allegations perhaps lay in Denny's own personal past?
Okay, the circumstantial evidence is strong. I would hate to indict the former speaker personally without knowing the facts of it. I do know that many of your colleagues, J.D., including one who was forced onto the Ethics Committee against her will, did think it was a little odd that the speaker had not disciplined the congressman in question or suggested that he exit the place as these charges were metastasizing. Now, one other thing I would mention, we are talking about someone who's been out of Congress since 2007. They had to have a special election to fill his seat. More than 3/4 of the Republicans who now comprise their majority were elected post-Hastert. Hence the lack of discussion about him on Capitol Hill, at least by the younger members or the dominant Republicans in the House of Representatives.
It will be interesting as the case goes on. Will this take on Jerry Sandusky-like perception in the public mind? Let me turn to another subject, and it has to do with proposed FCC regulations to restrict automated robocalls. The commission now encouraging telephone companies to offer services to consumers that would virtually block all of those calls. Some Republican insiders are calling this proposed FCC regulation a threat. Do you share that opinion?
The old libertarian in me believes in freedom of speech, and as one former Republican congressman used to put it, the right of me to swing my fist ends where your face begins. Now, are having these kinds of calls a nuisance, or are they really an expression of freedom of speech? I personally say the latter. I do know that the same thing that the FCC has talked about with robocalls is applied to sales calls that people get now, and people are blocking those kinds of calls. Applying it to political speech, though, is a very slippery slope, and I think people of both parties should take a careful look at this, certainly before the panel takes any action on it.
Although I can tell you this, John, as a former candidate who sometimes had those robocalls going out, I heard from voters, if I get another call from your campaign, I'm not voting for you, so the nuisance factor may be at work. John Gizzi, as always, we appreciate your insights and analysis from Washington, D.C., and we thank you for your time. Well, that'll do it for a very, very busy week. Back Monday. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.